everyone. I'd like to call the meeting of the City Council December 14th, 2021. This is our last meeting of the year, and we're so happy to be with all of you. And for those of you that don't stay the length of the meeting, we'd like to wish you the happiest of holidays with your families and loved ones, and just hope you can relax and enjoy yourselves. And I mentioned this earlier today, that yesterday, Mr. Branch, Ms. Wooten, the manager, and I, and members of staff, we did our service awards for our very loyal employees who've been with us a very long time. So we had a traveling show because of COVID. We didn't want everybody to be in one place. So we had our 30-year people, our 35-year people, 40, 45, and we had one gentleman, Mr. John Roberts, who's been with our city for 50 years. What a wonderful tribute to all of these people. And one of our own council member, Rocky Holcomb, got an award yesterday for 30 years.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
We also put out a commercial that if anybody had any friends who needed a job, we were in a labor crisis and we really need them, and nobody needed to retire soon. So with that, let me get to the we've done the invocation. Reverend Clint Mitchell, are you here?
Thank you for this opportunity. Let us pray. Everlasting God, on this time of year when the longest night approaches, we are mindful of our sisters and brothers who go without. Tonight we pray for our city. Make this city an instrument of your peace. Where there is anger, let us sow love. Where there is brokenness, let us bring healing. Where there is doubt, let us give faith. Where there is despair, let us shed hope. And where there is sadness, let us bring joy. Almighty One, I pray for these, the leaders of our city. Give them wisdom as they make difficult decisions. Give them compassionate hearts to work in the best interest of all of the people of our city. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So we need to certify the closed session.
Motion to move.
Second.
Voting board should be open.
Jones and Fowler. Mr. Holcomb, may I have your vote to certify the closed session? Thank you. By a vote of 9-0, you've certified the closed session to be in accordance with the motion to recess.
And the minutes are not quite ready, so we'll attend to
Correct.
them
Thank you.
next. And before we continue, I've got to tell you, I'll give you a Bobby D report. I talked to our mayor this morning. He wanted everybody to know that every day he's getting better, and I can hear it in his voice that he's getting stronger and he's doing all the right things. And he really believes he's going to be with us for the first meeting in January, and so I know everybody keeps him in their prayers and wishes him well. And then Mr. Moss is out of town today, so he will not be with us. So the consent agenda.
Do you want it?
Oh, I need to read speaker policy, excuse me. I want to remind everyone that the City Council speaker policy that allows certain representatives of groups to speak for 10 minutes applies only to planning items. All other speakers, whether speaking individually or on behalf of a group, will have 3 minutes to speak. Speakers are reminded that comments during the formal portion of the meeting must be limited to the subject of the item that is being considered by council at the time you are called. When speakers are called on each item, the clerk will call for those individuals who have signed up to speak. We have several items with only one person signed up. As such, the city clerk will call the speaker and identify each item they have registered on. The speaker will receive 3 minutes to comment on each item. Again, The speaker must limit his or her comments to the subject matter of the items they have signed up to address. Finally, I call upon all speakers and all persons in the chamber to be civil in their discussion and decorum. Whatever views you hold and wish to express, the City Council wants to hear from you and to ensure that all viewpoints and all persons are respected. The best way to do this is for all of us to strive for civility and respect. So,
Vice Mayor, we have one speaker who signed up for everything.
Okay.
Ms. Messner. And the only items that are not on consent at this, ma'am, I'm talking to the council. The only items that are not on consent at this point under ordinances and resolutions are 3A, B, and C. Planning 4, 5, and 7.
thank you, Madam Clerk.
Ms. Messner, the items that you will not be...
Can you please wait till I set this down? The reason I'm late is because, as Ms. Henley and Mr. Moss, who's not here, know, I've been after y'all since 2014 to fix Oceana General Booth. There's a major accident. You know, those major. And Mr. Dehaney, I'd like for you to look into that because, you know, the roundabouts, I mean, traffic is backed up and there's like 6 cars
Liz,
piled
would
up.
you stay on topic, please? Thank you.
Pardon? Okay, I'm saying why I'm late, and, you know, I would appreciate if she would repeat those, because normally I have
First
time.
item is number 1 you'll be speaking on.
Okay. Okay. And then when I'm finished with that, if you would tell me which ones you pulled. Okay. Transfer $7 million of existing CIP project resort parking district to the Virginia Beach Development Authority to acquire 200 public parking spaces at 35th Street. There is no parking. Every time you build the 5 parking garages for Amada Hoffler, the 3 at the oceanfront, you took away 25th Street, 31st Street, 9th Street. They're all for the hotels. And then, Mr. Tower, when you do the, I'd appreciate if you'd let me know since your beach district, you know, how many people are allowed who don't have, you know, who don't have enough parking. You used to have parking when you build something. How many parking spaces are left? Okay, and, you know, of the 464 pages, you know, the applicant conflicts with Town Bank. And even though I was corrected by a certain person, you know, their family business has been working with Thompson and Ruffin, Gold Key, since 1999. Okay, and then WPL, there's a conflict here. Billy Allman, Brian Large, landscape architects, you know, they're appointed by the RAC. Y'all control everything. Okay, and yeah, these things are not signed. The documents are not signed. It's scribbled, economic development, city attorney, not signed, not witnessed.
Okay, Ms. Messer's time to move on to the next item.
Okay,
The next item is number 2.
all right, before I go to 2, if you would tell me which ones are pulled.
2 is the one you're speaking on now.
Thank you for your help.
Thank you.
2, and this is exempt real estate and personal property tax. You know, we should not be paying for somebody else to be exempt. And this was on the agenda last week, but it wasn't voted on. Normally, it's the same meeting. And I opposed it. I don't know how many people made note, because we should not be subsidizing private nonprofits. Most of them don't deserve it, but we shouldn't be paying for it. It's our money. We can decide if we want to support a nonprofit. That should be our right. Cole Academy Preschool. Mutts with a Mission. Buddhist Meditation Monastery, Hampton Roads Veg Fest, New Light Community Outreach, Wild Baby Raccoon Rescue, Wave College, Wave Leadership, I assume that's Wave Church. Everybody, is in the business of education, including Pleasure House Point, Lynn Haven River Now. It's like Your Wellness, Discover Courage. I oppose this. We have $3 billion debt. We have a new $567 million. To mitigate, not to fix, not to repair, not to stop flooding, to mitigate for the first phase. So I'm in opposition. Okay?
Next item is 4 you'll be speaking on.
So 3 is pulled?
Yes, ma'am. 4 is the next item.
Okay. I appreciate your help, Mr. Jones, with the meeting. Okay, 4. Regarding membership of the May 31st Memorial Committee, requested by Mr. Berlucci and Ms. Wooten. The victim family members have been here repeatedly asking to be on this commission. And we shouldn't be paying for, a private person to do designs and everything. It should be the victim families.
Thank you.
Jason Nixon's still very active, the Missy Langer's family. So, shouldn't be having a resolution without meeting with all the victim families, and I know for a fact that you haven't, because I'm in touch with a lot of them. Okay, that's 4. Okay.
5A and 5B.
A and B. Okay, temporary encroachment into a portion of city-owned property. Maintain 2 existing boat lifts, a wooden bulkhead to construct and maintain proposed wooden dock and vinyl bulkhead. We have hardly any city property left. It's not yours to decide what you want to do with it. Broad Bay, high-end neighborhood. The temporary encroachment, once they build something, it's permanent. B, unimproved sections of city right-of-ways known as Fort Raleigh Drive, Christine Drive, Coastal Edge Drive for Croatan Civic League. Construct a wooden pedestrian bridge. Pedestrian bridge, how about some pedestrian bridges so the people can go across the street to Red Wing Park, which is now commercial, but the kids still need a place to play. And the only thing I agree with about the independent, quote-unquote independent news, where we pay for Ms. Henley Farms ads in there, full-page ad for Parks and Rec. Public safety. Look at this. I had to enlarge this. It's microscopic in there. But these, even at the Courthouse Municipal Center, narcotics violation, concealed weapons, 2500 block James Madison Boulevard, oceanfront, hit and run, assault, shoplifting, hit and run. This is just for from November 24th to December 4th. This should be in the you should pay for this to be in the Beacon like it used to be. It used to be a month. Now you do it like, 6 days or whatever. All right.
Number 6.
Ordinance to establish a CIP capital project, establish, this is a new one, 100609, regional BMPs. Everyone doesn't know what all these initials are for. It should, okay, 2021-22 capital improvement program, transfer $9 million to project 100609 and authorize city manager to execute the necessary documents. And when you execute the necessary documents like this one and others I've held up, it's important that the people, I worked for law firms right out of high school, while I was still in high school. You type your name, you type the date, and everything is witnessed. Economic development, it's just scribble. You can't even see who it is. Sufficiency to legal, scribble. Normally, I can recognize some of the city attorneys. This is for the parking garage. If you don't dot your I's and cross your T's and have legal documents, all right. So we have a budget. If you can't stick to the budget, then, and also going 20% over on anything is malfeasance, mismanagement of funds. And, I'm wondering if we're going to have a state or federal audit of all the money for CARES and all these other funds. You shouldn't be joining with United Way. They have questionable uses for their funds on VB Strong, on CARES Act, everything. You're using the money to hire security for the entire complex, municipal center. You have an outside group, out there 24/7. Where's the security for our schools and for the neighborhoods that aren't at the north end or high-end places? Okay?
Number 7.
7. Okay. Ordinance to appropriate $380,000 from net assets of the Water and Sewer Enterprise Fund. Purchase a replacement sewer cleaner. $380,000. You've been mismanaging all the money. You haven't taken care of flooding since Matthew. By the Breakers Hotel. That hideous thing for, storm drain water, whatever. That doesn't work. The one at 42nd doesn't work. When you have uncontrolled growth and you just tear down all the trees and you think you're going to plant a few and it's going to make a difference, none of y'all will be here by the time we might have some trees. So, net assets, okay.
8A.
8A?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Like I said, it's the holiday season. A lot of people are out of town. A lot of people are at the school board meeting. It's kind of hard to go to 2, but at least it looks like this meeting, if y'all don't take 10 minutes each to give your opinions on everything, we could leave early. Okay. 8A, $32,000 from the Commonwealth of Virginia. 21-22 Virginia Beach Public Library operating budget, and authorize city manager to execute a memorandum of agreement Ray, furniture replacement at Myra Obendorf Central Library, Virginia Beach Central Library, and Bayside Area Special Services Library. You do this maintenance over and over and over, and between COVID and everything else, you know, the rec centers aren't open all the time, the libraries aren't open. That's a safe haven for, you know, children, and you know, children who are in unsafe situations. You know, the libraries and these places, you know, which they're closed all the time. I hope you're paying attention, Mr. Rouse, because I do think you care. However you go about it, I do think you care about the youth. Okay.
8B.
B.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. $4,021,136.25. Wait a minute. Okay. American Rescue Plan. Rescue. You're rescuing yourselves from your mismanagement. You're misusing these funds. Yes, I'm ticked. I'm ticked that other people don't read this and show up. Coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery funds, municipal utility assistance program to the Department of Public Utilities operating budget. Provide utility relief assistance for delinquent residential customers. Like I said, anybody can sign up and get the press releases. You know, you close things, people can't get through. A lot of people work remotely, and it just goes to voicemail. People can't get through to get help. And this money, you know, you're offering huge bonuses to people, and finally they have to agree to work for 2 years. But are they qualified? Are the people you're getting qualified? I've seen so many people coming here, you know, they answer the phone, it's their first day, and they aren't from the area, they don't know anything. And if you all use the regular VBGov website, it's very difficult to find things.
Excuse me.
Okay?
8C.
Let's see. Okay, $4,448,716 in federal funding from the Shuttered Venue Operators Grant. Establish CIP for the aquarium animal holding facility improvements. Do you have any idea how many kids from SeaTac in any of the poor neighborhoods can afford to go to the aquarium? What the cost is for the aquarium and for everything else? We're subsidizing these things, and the tourists, you know, they get a little bit of a discount, but it's outrageous what it costs for membership. You care more about animals, rescuing animals, you know, kennels. You don't know how many kennels these are, really puppy mills. And then on TV all the time, rescue this animal. How about rescuing people? How about rescuing humans? People that can't pay their bills, people who are, you know, are losing their businesses. Yes, I oppose all this misuse of money for your failure to take care of everything and to try to find, yeah, the aquarium. That's not a priority. Crime is a priority. Another shooting at the Harris Teeter. That's the second shooting, you know, related to a Harris Teeter. And they can't find enough people that want to work there. People don't want to wear masks. They don't want to get a shot. You know, you're not taking care of public safety. That comes first. Okay?
I'd like to declare a public hearing on the planning.
Number 1.
So, no one else is here, correct? Okay, are any pulled on one? On planning?
Number 1 is the one you're speaking on now. Easier
Okay.
just to do it as you go.
Atlantic Development Associates, LLC. Subdivision regulations subdivide 2 lots to create a total of 3 lots. Ansall Lane and 153 Bassett Avenue, Beach District. Atlantic Development. Yeah, everything is high density. And there's no setbacks. You know, speaking of no setbacks, the project where, Breeden Project, the one that the ex-mayor, had the conflicts with and took over our 25th Street parking lot, that new Pinnacle thing is outrageous, outrageous. The entire construction site is outrageous.
Stay on topic, thank you.
I'm talking about the projects and the setbacks and how there's no setbacks, there's no public safety, there's no sidewalks. So I oppose, the high density because then, there's less parking and there's more traffic.
Number 2.
Okay. James Richards, Linda Champion Richards, street closure, 375 square feet, unimproved alley, which is usually a paper street, 733 Vanderbilt Avenue, District Beach. Recommendation approval by council appointed planning. It doesn't say planning. Yeah, planning up here. And David Bradley, who's with finance, then city manager, now he's appointed to planning. You run everything. Y'all control everything. We can come up here and speak, and you're a little bit more polite tonight, but, okay.
Number 3.
3. Michael Ash, Mitzi Ash, co-trustees of the Ash Revocable Trust, street closure, 375 square feet of unimproved alley adjacent to the rear, 729 Vanderbilt Avenue in Croatan, Beach District. Remember when we had all the meetings on the short-term rentals, that's pretty high-end neighborhood, and they have a little bit more clout, so you've kind of backed off on some of theirs. There's less of theirs, but, anything goes at the Beach District, and I do resent the fact that you don't ask me any questions, and you don't answer my emails, my rep. Okay,
Number 6.
so 4 is pulled, 5 is pulled, correct?
Yes, ma'am. Number 6 is what you're speaking of.
Okay. Holland Lakes Associates for conditional use permit, mini warehouse, self-storage facility, Holland Road, Rose Hall District. Okay, this whole place is warehouses. Warehouses, 7-Elevens, tattoo parlors, breweries. It's over-commercialized, and that's more and more traffic. Okay?
That's all.
Okay,
That's on consent, yes.
thank you.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. Madam Vice Mayor, I'd like to move for approval under the consent agenda. First is under ordinances and resolutions, ordinance to transfer $7 million of the existing appropriations in the capital project number 10059, Resort Parking District, to the Virginia Beach Development Authority, reacquisition of 200 public parking spaces at 35th Street. Item H2 is ordinance to designate as exempt real and personal property taxes. A, the Cole Academy Preschool, Inc. B, Mutts with a Mission. C, Shakyamuni Buddhist Meditation Monastery. D, Hampton Roads Veg Fest. E, New Light Community Outreach. F, Wild Baby Raccoon Rescue. G, Wave College, Inc., trading as Wave Leadership College. H, Your Wellness, Inc. I, Discover Courage. Item H3, or H4, is the resolution regarding membership of the 31st Memorial Committee requested by council members Berlucci and Wooten. Item 5 is ordinances to authorize temporary encroachments into a portion of city-owned A property known as West Canal, located at the rear of 2309 Broad Bay Road. Ray maintained 2 existing boat lifts, a wooden bulkhead, and to construct and maintain a proposed wooden dock and vinyl bulkhead. Item 5B, unimproved sections of the city rights-of-way known as Fort Raleigh Drive, Christine Drive, and Coastal Drive for Croatan Civic League, Inc. Ray construct a wooden pedestrian bridge. Item 6 is ordinance to establish Capital Project 100609 regional VMPs in the fiscal year 2021-22 capital improvement program and transfer $9 million to Project 100609 and authorize the city manager to execute the necessary documents. Item 7, ordinance to appropriate $380,000 from net assets of the Water and Sewer Enterprise Fund. Ray purchase a replacement sewer cleaner. Item 8 is ordinances to accept and appropriate $32,107 from the Commonwealth of Virginia to the fiscal year 2021-22 Virginia Beach Public Library operating budget, and authorize the city manager to execute a memorandum of agreement for a furniture replacement at the Myra E. Obendorf Central Library and the Bayside Area Special Services Library. Item 8B is $4,021,136.25 from the American Rescue Plan Act Coronavirus State and Local Fiscal Recovery Funds Municipal Utility Assistance Program to the Department of Public Utilities operating budget. Ray provide utility relief assistance for delinquent residential customers. Item 8C, which is for $4,486,715 in federal funding from the Shuttered Venue Operators Grant, Establish Capital Project 100608, Virginia Aquarium Animal Holding Facility Improvements, and appropriate funding for Project 100608 and the Department of the Virginia Aquarium Fiscal Year 2021-22 Capital Improvement Program.
I'd like to declare a public hearing on planning.
For planning, under item I1 is the application of Atlantic Development Associates, LLC, for a variance to Section 4.4B of the subdivision regulations. Ray subdivide 2 lots to create a total of 3 lots at 2744 Ansel Lane and 153 Bassett Avenue, District 6, Beach. Item I2, which is the application to James B. Richards Jr. and Linda Champion Richards for a street closure, Ray 375 square feet of an unimproved alley adjacent to the rear of 733 Vanderbilt Avenue, District 6, the Beach District. Item I3 is the application of Michael I. Ash and Mitzi S. Ash, co-trustees of the Ash Revocable Trust, for a street closure, Ray 375 square feet of an unimproved alley adjacent to the rear of 729 Vanderbilt Avenue, District 6. Item 6, which is the application of Holland Lakes Associates, LC, for a conditional use permit, Ray Mini Warehouse Self-Storage Facility at 3478 Holland Road, District 3, Rose Hall. And I so moved, Madam Mayor.
Second.
Okay. Voting board is open.
Ms. Wilson.
I'm going, as soon as we vote, I was going to call on you.
Oh,
Had not
thank you.
forgotten.
By a vote of 9-0, you have approved the consent agenda as read by Councilmember Jones.
I think Mr. Bellucci wanted to make some remarks.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Ms. Wilson. I would like to make a remark on item 6 on our planning agenda, which is the Holland Lakes Associates application for conditional use permit in the Rose Hall District. As the Rose Hall District representative, I am proud to have recommended this application to be included on our consent agenda. The applicant is a known and valued member of our community, a very good corporate citizen, and has a record of establishing quality products throughout Virginia Beach. There is one element of this application that I would like to bring to the public's attention and to the surface and to the attention of the council and to the city staff. There are a number of businesses currently located within the Holland Lake Shopping Center. My understanding is that there are 3 active businesses remaining in that shopping center. 2 of those businesses will be incorporated into the new plan, as I understand it, and one of those businesses will be required to relocate. The business that's required to relocate is a bar, restaurant, and nightclub known as the Rainbow Cactus. And the Rainbow Cactus is not only a bar and a nightclub and a restaurant, it's a community center for the LGBTQ plus community and allies in our city. It's operated for decades successfully within that district. And it's a place for members of our community to meet each other, to connect, to organize. The Cactus is known to be a source of artistic and intellectual energy, as well as free expression. Frankly, the Cactus is a sanctuary for many people of our community, and it provides a welcoming sense of openness, pride, and freedom. And for many, that space is the most accessible place where they can find those, where they can find and enjoy those virtues. And the Cactus is also a symbol in Virginia Beach of the long struggle for acceptance that members of the LGBTQ plus community in Virginia Beach have experienced, and it's a repository of our history. Lived history, oral histories, and the experiences of LGBTQ people in Virginia Beach. And on the subject of history, I'd like to share a piece of history that I think is often overlooked and unknown in Virginia Beach. And that is on the evening of March 21st, 1965, there was a police raid on a restaurant on Atlantic Avenue called Craig's. And 86 people were arrested on the charge of same-sex dancing and other petty offenses. Their names were published in the Virginia Beach Sun supplement to the Virginia Pilot. And as a result, in 1965, these individuals' careers were destroyed, their families were disrupted, and the oral history maintains that a number of those individuals committed suicide, took their own lives. So we've come a long way as a city since 1965, and I'm proud to report that. But a place like the Cactus is very much a sanctuary in our city, and it's a representation of all of those things that I mentioned: pride, freedom, openness, and it's a place to be valued and maintained. And so I would call on the city manager to take every reasonable, proactive measure to support the Cactus through their transition, measures that are legal, appropriate, of course. But this is a community resource in addition to a bar, restaurant, and nightclub. And I'd also like to state that many of the people, the staff who are part of the Cactus community these are not transferable jobs necessarily. They're performers there. There are other folks on their staff who, it's not as simple as finding a new job as a server or a bartender. That there's no other place in Virginia Beach where these jobs are available. This is the only LGBTQ plus bar in Virginia Beach that remains. And so I do call on the city to maintain support for the Cactus through the transition, and I ask that council support the staff in that effort. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vellucci. Okay, so moving back to ordinances and resolutions, I believe we are on 3A.
We have, would you like for me to call the speakers?
Yes, please.
Okay, we have 2 speakers, Barbara Messner.
Okay, which item?
3A.
H3A? Okay. City Code business license fees and taxes provide revenue offsets. This ties in with the comments about certain communities. Crocs, you know, has Drag Yourself to Brunch. There's lots of places, in Virginia Beach. And, you know, there are a lot of vets that are committing suicide. There are a lot of people that are losing businesses. And just because one member has friends or wants to support something, you know, everybody should, you know, should take a turn. If there's a new business going in that's displacing them, then maybe the new business shouldn't be going in. And as far as the business license fees, you know, I'm paying for photography equipment, and it's not devalued like it's not, you know, I'm paying the same thing I was when I bought the equipment, expensive equipment in '91. We don't get a break on that. But I drive around and I see all these cars that say antique. I saw one, a old beat up truck that said farm use. You know, there's so many special interest, you know, plates and everything. We're losing revenue. So, you know, this is Tower and Wooten. And Miss Wooten has the boot camp and everything for youth, for SWAM. Half the SWAM things are, you know, a family member. And, you know, anybody who watches, especially the July 31st meeting, you know, certain people are helped. The meeting should be open to everyone in the city. Everyone in the city. To learn how to get, how to do business with the city. Okay, is that it?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Diana Howard.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Diana Howard. I'm the chair of the Virginia Beach Tea Party, and yes, we are taxed enough already, so I would be in favor of anything that reduces taxes, especially for small businesses that suffered through the last administration, or they should say the outgoing administration's lockdowns and mandates that did its best to destroy small businesses, is still trying desperately to survive, even though they can't get help. So, but the only thing I have to say on, and I want to speak on just all 3 of these at once, and then I'm leaving, but you're just doing the personal property tax and for new businesses, well, that's great, but what about existing businesses? And shouldn't we try and get rid of personal property tax? Why should businesses have to pay on stuff that they buy to do business and pay taxes on that year after year after year, right? And if they're not being depreciated, they should be, right? That goes for personal property taxes for residents as well on the cars. You should try and eliminate or reduce as much of those taxes as possible, because really they're horrible to think that you have to pay taxes on them year after year just for owning them and having to do business and to get to work. And it should only be taxed for things that you actually need, like taxes on the cars. As long as all that money is going towards roads, that's one thing, but if it's to run the government, no. Right, so I don't know what all these tool and machinery and personal property taxes go to pay for, but reducing it as much as possible to help businesses survive, I think is a great idea, and anything you can do to help them is good. And I wish you all a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Thanks.
Thank you, Diane.
Thank you.
That's all the speakers, ma'am, on 3A. We're not there yet.
Anybody,
I motion to approve. I thought it's
Okay.
Councilman Towers.
Yeah, I move we approve, for approval. I'd like to make a substitute motion. I'd like to make a motion to table until our budget cycle, 3A.
I'll second that.
so we have to vote to see if we can accept the substitute first.
Correct.
Can I just ask one question? Is this to table or to defer indefinitely?
Do you want to, why don't you defer it until
I defer it until we
Till
are in the
budget
budget
system.
process.
the budget process?
I'll amend that motion.
I'll accept that.
Okay. Mr. Tower?
Is it appropriate to discuss the substitute motion? Is that what's before us now?
Yes.
I appreciate my friend Mr. Branch's motion. I'm sure he's got good reasons for it. I think this motion as drafted is an appropriate one. Whatever you think of the motion, and I hope you think it's a good one, I do want to make sure people understand the reason it is out of sequence here with the budget cycle is because the bills have to be prepared and are coming due. It has nothing to do with anybody trying to slide something by. This is open. It was presented last week. I don't want any implication being that however people vote on it, I think they've had time to look at and see it, and we wouldn't be doing this but for the fact that we are in December, and I believe tomorrow is the deadline for the commissioner to get these bills prepared. That's why we're out of sequence with it. If it were a more material amount, and if it was not something that I think our small business community could really use right now, not all of them have had happy years. Not all people that have started businesses are encouraged to continue them. It's been a rough year for a lot of folks. This seems to me to be a small attempt to try to express council's understanding that in this time when all of us are trying to struggle to do the right thing, we are thinking about small businesses as well as our neediest people. We can't put businesses ahead of people, but our small business owners are people too, and that's why I support this motion. Thank you.
Mr. Branch?
Thank you, Vice Mayor Wilson. So I just got our immediate contact on the phone, and it has to do with the fact that the out-of-school time children's programs, due to the city manager's approved pay increases, 9 of the impacted schools will not have to close, and they are cautiously optimistic that we can save the remaining 5 programs. And my point is that all of these things are important, and they all have priorities. But we have a lot of problems that we're going to have to deal with in this budget. And I just want to look at the entire budget and go through a methodical process. And at the end of it all, if we can give sufficient tax relief and do a lot of other things, great. But there's a lot of stress on our city right now, and a lot of things need correcting, and I want to deal with all of that during the budget process, and that's the reason for my substitute motion.
Thank you. Mr. Rouse?
Thank you, Mr. Branch. Thank you, Councilman Tower and Councilman Wooten for bringing this forward. This is a measure I support. Our small businesses are the backbone of our community. I understand as Councilman Tower stated earlier, that this is out of sequence for our budget cycle because in order for our small businesses, the elderly, and new businesses, for them to take advantage of this tax cut, this has to be in place because those tax cuts take place January 1st, 2022. If we wait to handle this in the regular budget cycle, then small businesses, new businesses, and the elderly will not be able to take advantage of this until 2023. So that's why we're doing this tonight. And again, I think as already been noted, our small business community has been through a lot. Talking about coming out of a pandemic. Not everyone has done well. And if you understand our city and our economy is built off the backs of small businesses. At the same time, we want to make sure we are a community that's open for businesses, that gives new businesses a strong start to be able to thrive within our city. And so I think this is a great and a solid measure to doing just that, and I look forward to supporting this motion. I hope we wouldn't put this off to bring the much-needed relief to our small business community. Thank you.
Ms. Henley?
I believe only one of them is time-sensitive for this budget. The other two can wait during the process, and we could do those other two. And you know, it makes you feel like a Grinch to say that this is not right, but I really think it's our responsibility to make sure we know exactly what we're doing. If we do this, then it's costing the city to make this up over $2 million, and that's a lot of money, and we don't know what is going to have to be cut or not done in the budget to make up for that $2 million. And this also impacts the schools, I believe, because the school formula includes these, and they haven't had any opportunity to do this. You know, we really had all the way up until now to have considered this, but this came to us at the very last moment and said, you got to do it now or you can't do it. And that's just not a good position to be in. I think our responsibility is to know what we're doing. And I think, it does put us in a spot, and it makes anybody who says that this isn't the right thing to do look like we're terrible. I think the average assistance to the a small business on this is about $102, and that's $102 is $102, but it's not the make or break. Plus, as far as new businesses, they give them a break on the first 2 years that they're in business, that they don't have to pay it at all. So for new businesses, they already don't pay any. So I don't think this has had the opportunity to be vetted, and I really don't like doing things piecemeal. And if this were really going to make a make or break difference, I would probably say, well, we'll do it. But I think we would have time to deal with this in the budget process, and I just think that's the way we ought to do it. And the other two, the ones with the elderly and the personal property tax, and the other one with business with the personal property tax, they can be done in the budget process. They are not required to be done tonight. So I just think we have to be responsible and know what we're doing. And I feel like $2 million, I can't answer to anybody what that's going to keep from doing. And we also have to remember, this isn't just a one-year thing. This is an every-year thing as we put it in place, or we would have to undo it. So we have to do this. This is every year that the budget will be losing that amount of money. So it's got a lot of tentacles here, and I just don't think handing it to us one week and say you must do it next week or you can't do it, it's not the way we do business.
Mr. Rouse?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I think it all depends on how you look at it. I don't see our city as losing $2 million to help our small businesses and helping new businesses start. I think the revenue that potential new businesses could bring into our city can make up $2 million. And when you add the fact in, we just acquired a piece of property for $9 million as well. So taking that off the tax rolls, I think we can give $2 million, or not give. I think this is something where we can help small businesses and new businesses and the elderly thrive within our city. This is a good and solid piece of legislation here, and I think it's something that when we can find ways to cut taxes and give back to the community, we should. And I think this is a smart way to do so.
Okay, anybody? Ms. Wooten?
I'd like to also put my support behind our small businesses. Granted, I know this is not the best or the way we would have liked to enter this piece of legislation, but however, it's the timing and the specific resolution was found to help support our local businesses and the small businesses, and regardless of that, if it's going to do the greatest good for our small businesses and help them thrive during a very difficult time in the pandemic, I think we should be supportive to this measure because it's time sensitive. I know there are a lot of issues and things with the budget, but we can certainly consider that, and we're going to have a large discussion and an intense discussion about that later. But right now, time is of the essence on this measure, and I'd like to support this for our small businesses.
If I may, since we seem to be heading toward this, what this does is it raises the exemption level from $100,000 to $300,000 gross income. That's the way it's based on what someone pays. We haven't discussed whether $300,000 is the right amount. That's just the number that the Commissioner of Revenue gave us. When we look at other cities in our region, all of the other cities are where Virginia Beach is at $100,000, except Chesapeake, which is $200,000. So we are setting this threshold at $300,000, which would be the highest in this region, and we haven't even discussed it. Maybe there's another threshold that would be better, or maybe if we only did $200,000, how much would that cost us? But we've not had these opportunities to have this discussion. I just, like I say, I appreciate the Commissioner of Revenue bringing this to us, but it's our job to know the answers to these questions, and we don't know them.
Mr. Rouse?
Thank you. I think perhaps if Chief Deputy Eric Smoot is he here in here? If he would like to speak to this is the Commissioner's Chief Deputy.
Yes. Eric, would you come forward, please?
What can I help you with?
I think it was brought up that the threshold of $300,000. Can you just speak to how this measurement came to be? I know we had discussion on it last week.
Right.
When Commissioner Kellum was here, and see you're here in this place.
Right. The reason it was hit is that would put 75% of the businesses in Virginia Beach at a minimum license tax. Currently, we're around 61%. So we're trying to get that threshold up. What happens with the beep-hole tax is the higher the revenue, the smaller the number gets. And so this would pretty much effectively give you 75% of your businesses paying a minimum tax.
So you're essentially casting a wide net.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Exactly.
So, before you sit down,
Sure.
I've asked, when Mr. Kellum called me, and I had a question for him, and he didn't answer me. And when he came before us last week, I asked the same question, and I still haven't gotten an answer.
Okay.
And the answer was, if one thing is, if you raise it, you can't bring it back down. So it's like what Ms. Henley said, we weren't giving any options of looking at different amounts. And I had asked, what would the $200,000 threshold, what kind of a loss in revenue would that be? You know,
So
what
from
difference that would
100,000
be?
to 200,000 would be about $1 million, and from 200 to 300,000 is another $1 million. Okay? Does that help?
And what percent, how does that change the percentage?
The percentages would be about, if you had 200,000, you'd have 70% of the businesses would be under a minimum license.
And so this isn't your fault, but these were questions that I, as a council member,
I
needed
understand.
answered. And I asked twice.
Okay.
And I didn't get an answer.
I apologize.
So, and I say, this, you weren't the person I asked the question, so,
I understand.
anyway, I'm sorry if it
Yeah,
sounds
he
like I'm
can't,
fussing
he
at
can't be
you.
here tonight, family emergency.
Well, but it was before tonight.
I
when
understand.
asked the questions. Does anybody else have any questions of Mr.
Any other
Smith?
questions?
Eric, thank you for being
Thank
with
you.
us.
Oh,
tonight.
no problem.
Okay. Anybody else? I'd like to say that the process that was used in this was disappointing for me. This isn't something that was just brand new and popped up. It could have occurred months, weeks before our very last meeting of the year. And we didn't really have a chance to massage it and look at all the different thresholds and have a chance to do that. We just said, here it is, you have to vote on it this week. And, you know, we try to be more deliberate in our actions. We've had a lot on our plate. We've got a lot of decisions that are going to be coming up with this budget, especially we're in a labor crisis. So the process was troublesome to me, and that's kind of what I'd like to say. So anyway, Mr. Branch has a motion on the table, and this is to see if the substitute will become the main motion. So if you could please vote.
By a vote of 6-3, this has now become the main motion. And just to, I've clarified the date with Budget Director, which would be May 10th, 2022, I think is when you are set to approve the budget.
So that'd be indefinite deferral to May
What-
10th.
Or if we could do a date certain. It's already closed, 6-3.
Just a moment. Okay, all right, yes, Mr. Tower.
I was just trying to see what the vote
Oh,
was and
okay.
who voted for it. It went away
Yeah, that's
faster than I could read
I
it.
can't bring it back up, so I can tell you, the vote was for the substitute motion to defer. Mr. Berlucci, Mr. Branch both voted yes. Ms. Henley voted yes. Mr. Holcomb, Mr. Jones voted yes. Mr. Rouse, Mr. Tower, and Ms. Wooten voted no.
Okay, so we have a main motion on the table, and that's
You
to
open it
defer
back
till
up.
May 10th. Is that correct?
That's the motion.
Mark, is that appropriate?
Can we have discussion?
We certainly can. I'm just trying to figure out what the
Did
motion is.
anyone second the
But
main
But
motion?
we need a second for it.
I'm sorry, what, I didn't
It's
understand.
become, do we need a
It's
second?
become the main motion, you
Yeah,
don't
we
need
don't
a second again,
Yes,
that's
Mr.
the second count.
I think, listen, I think we all can agree about process. And that's what appointments, that's what everything that we do, process can definitely be a lot better. But I think this was the one time that we had an opportunity, and we'll have opportunity throughout the budget cycle. And once we get to the budget cycle, those, that help will come in 2023. But this was the time we had the opportunity, the one time, to actually help small businesses and new businesses for the new year, January 1st, 2022. And the response from this council is the process. I just don't understand that. I just don't understand it because we've done many different things and the process was not in order. And the one time we have to help small businesses throughout our community,
New businesses.
Miss Hanley, I'm speaking.
I'm sorry, I was just clarifying something.
Thank you. I have the floor. Just I'll be very, very quick. I just think this was an opportunity for us to help our small businesses community, to take advantage of tax relief and relief January 1st, 2022, and not having to wait. And we missed that opportunity. But I agree with everyone. Process. But we can say that about every single item we talk about. Thank you.
I led the charge with the General Assembly, and Sal Iquinto carried the legislation, and it had not been done in the state I looked at what's the hardest time for a new business to start, and it's the first 2 years. So we were able to get the legislation through the General Assembly and make it a local option. And I think locally, only Chesapeake and Virginia Beach does this. But a brand-new business starting up, other than paying their little license fee, which you should be able to do that to start a business, does not have to pay B-Poll tax for the first 2 years. So we've done that for our new businesses. So this is something a little bit different. So does anybody else want to speak? Yes, Ms. Wooten.
And I believe too, we did have an opportunity to kind of bring us up to speed because from my understanding, there's nothing that has been done since the 1990s. So this legislation would have brought us up to speed to 2021 to help our local businesses take advantage of this tax break for the upcoming year. Well, with the motion that was just passed, of course, they can't do that. So we have to delay forever, whatever time council deems necessary to move forward. But delaying it until May won't do the businesses any good. It's really obsolete. And it's unfortunate because when you see an opportunity, which I believe Commissioner Kellum did, he saw the opportunity to bring us up to speed and up to date. And he presented that opportunity so that we could act on it. And that's all we were trying to do. It's unfortunate.
And we have done something like with the new businesses not having to pay it. And that was around,
Not like this legislation.
excuse me, I didn't interrupt you.
Well, I just wanted to
2011.
make sure you knew that.
That was in 2011. So anyway, we have a main motion on the table. Please have the
Missed
vote.
opportunity.
And the main motion was,
The main motion is to defer this until May 10th or during the budget process.
By a vote of 6-3, you have deferred this to May 10th, 2022.
Okay. 3B,
Barbara Messner.
Mr. Rouse, do you have any idea how many times I've said something about them, all the sidebars? And, you know, Diana Howard was allowed to speak on 2 of these and leave. Normally, anyway, I'm glad I have opportunity to speak on the other ones. Personal property and machinery tools. You know, all the Virginia Beach Economic Development Authority, who helps Ms. Wooten with Ignite, and what y'all consider small business. And also the videos. The video's not on for people to see what's going on. Again, and Julie Hill's no longer here. She's the one that directed that. This all has to do with due process. I took the time to come here. And, you know, I was told, you know, only I could speak on A. So the breweries do not have to pay for those huge, their machinery. They have a special tax exempt. People need to go to Virginia Beach Economic Development Authority and see what's going on with your money and who's being helped. It's select people being helped. Other businesses go belly up. You know, if you get a grant and you don't have to pay taxes on your machinery and tools like steel chainsaw, has anybody seen the footprint that they have and how many times we have subsidized them with air money, a German company? Okay. Incentive. Like I said, the boot camps, y'all should have separate meetings for open mic. Everybody should have a town hall. Ms. Henley, nobody's allowed to go to her meetings because, you know, they're just for her district. And Ms. Henley, you know, I want you to look into what happened to that car accident. You know, you put me off, you know, as far as, the traffic and everything. Okay, thank you.
Ms. Henley?
That's the only speaker signed up on it.
May I just say, I know absolutely nothing about this traffic accident, and I don't know, I seem to be the target tonight. But I didn't do anything about a
You've only
traffic
been here since
accident.
1
I don't know
o'clock.
what this is all about.
And I do believe all your meetings are open to the public.
And all of my meetings are open to the public for anyone who wants to come. They're the fourth Thursday of every month at 5:15 in Building 19, except November and December are combined to
Ms. Mester,
December.
you're-
Oh, I know, but Miss Henley?
I'm sorry.
Okay, I know, but you're doing the same thing they did.
Your time is.
Oh, I know, but if she had a real
can speak
question,
on
she
the
could
next-
ask me while I'm up here.
You can speak on the next item. Thank you, Ms. Messner. Okay, do we have a motion on the table?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to defer this item as well, and do it in the budget process.
Second.
All right, any other discussion? This one is not time sensitive, is that correct? We've already
Correct.
established that. All right. Okay, please vote.
He has something to
Oh, excuse me, go ahead.
I apologize. It is somewhat time sensitive in the sense that the tax date on this one is January 1, but there is a lag before the commissioner prepares the bills. So it is not the January 1 time sensitive that the previous item had. This does have some time sensitivity in the sense of when they load up the personal property for the bills that go out, which I defer to Mr. Schmudy as the exact date. But you do have a little time. You don't have May 10th time.
Does that change? Oh,
Hello again.
hi. Thank you for being with us tonight to answer all of our questions.
That's what I'm here for. The time sensitivity would be, we close the book, actually we'll close it for the annual billing, which is in May, that's due June 5th. That's the big revenue that comes in at the end of the fiscal year. That book will be closed in early April because we'll be moving from this city hall to the new city hall. And so consequently, these bills would have to be prepared sometime between now and the end of March, if that helps.
Thank you. It does, because some of this is a learning process for us.
Right,
to
I
learn
understand.
how we're policymakers. We don't always get into the weeds of exactly how everything is
That's
done.
what we're here for.
Thank you.
Okay.
Anybody have any questions of Mr. Smoody? Thank you, Eric. Okay, so is everything the same? Any discussion? Okay, the voting board's open.
Just to clarify, this is for May 10th as well, 2022, correct?
Mr.
Okay,
Branch?
thank you. I see him shaking his head.
Well, we can talk about it during the budget process. When will we begin talking about the budget,
Hold on.
City Manager?
Councilmember Branch, I'll defer this question to the budget director.
What'll get set?
I mean, just because we defer it until May 10th doesn't mean we can't start talking about it prior to that, correct?
That's correct. Vice Mayor, that is correct. So we're in the process internally of working with departments, and we're doing our internal budget process now. We'll be working on that all the way through the month of February, and then putting together a proposed budget based on the guidance direction city manager gets from the council retreat. So if the body would like, we could certainly work over the course of the process to come up with some consideration and options to have ready at the retreat, if that would be to your liking.
That's sort of like the outside deadline of May 10th. We can consider it in between.
And then to keep up with the timeline of the personal property, that would then be working to implement a calendar year 23 personal property rate if it was to be adopted at that point in time.
Does anybody have any questions? Thank you, Kevin. Okay, is your motion, well, we've already voted.
And the vote is 6-3 to defer to May 10th. Go ahead and close it.
3C,
Make a motion to.
Oh, wait, we have one speaker, Mr. Branch, I'm sorry.
Yes, I should have known that.
Ms. Messner?
Yeah, you should. I've been working pretty hard trying to keep people informed and pay attention to what's going on in the city. Personal property tax, machinery, tools, elderly and disabled persons. You know, it should be across the board. Everybody, should have help, especially right now. I attended one meeting where y'all decided to do away with some of the help for the disabled people. Okay, y'all have had, I don't know how many retreats. And Ms. Henley, I have emailed you numerous times. You talk about traffic calming. You know, I've dealt with Bob Guy, Mark Johnson, everybody. I've talked to you about public safety. You have the letters. And Drew Langford and you do not give me the information. I just asked to be emailed. I was emailed before. So due process, and if we have a labor crisis, it's because of the toxic environment everywhere. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all the speakers. Vice Mayor.
Thank you.
Make
have a
a
motion?
motion to defer until the retreat, and we can discuss it during the start of that budget process.
Second.
Do we have any discussion?
May I?
We don't have a date for the retreat.
Well, that's not a date certain, and by having it be your vote on the budget, that just means you can talk about it in the budget process, but your action date is the date you approve the budget. So I would respectfully suggest that having the same May
The May
10
10th.
date would.
I'll amend that motion to May 10th. Thank you.
And I'll accept the motion.
Any discussion?
Keep an eye on
The board's open.
I'm sorry, 1 second. We're opening the vote. It's open.
So, and while we're on this topic, I think as a couple of months ago, I asked for the staff to look at the senior citizens and the disabled, the real estate rate of their thresholds, because we have not looked at the thresholds for senior citizens, I think, probably since it's been a really long time. I'm gonna guess like 2007, 2008, but I could be wrong. But it's been a really long time, and I think this is just as important as anything, is there's a lot of the disabled and the senior citizens, we need to look at what those thresholds are for their incomes. So if we could, just a friendly reminder, Mr. Manager.
Understood.
By a vote of 6 to 3, this item has been deferred to May 10th, 2022.
Okay,
Thank you.
so now I'm going to do, again, a public hearing on planning, and I think we are on I-4.
Eddie Burdon.
Can we do 4 and 5 together?
Yes.
Could we do 4 and 5 together? Would that
We
be
have-
okay?
So, we have 2 speakers on, well, excluding Mr. Burdon, we have 2 speakers on 4 and 2 speakers on 5.
Are they different?
Yes.
Maybe we can just sort of hear them all in one lump sum,
No,
together.
I have Eddie, Barbara, and Lisa Clarkson. 2, excluding him. Go ahead.
Well, do you need to call 5?
Well,
They-
they get 3 minutes because they're separate applications, and they were,
Well,
Process.
there's only one application. It's a conditional rezoning application. The other is a cleanup that frankly I don't think is legally mandated anyway, but there's just one application here. It's a conditional rezoning of 2 pieces of property from AG1, AG2, and R10 to conditional A12 apartment district. The other one is just simply to deal with the fact that in case number 4, 93 acres were a part of a use permit for Atlantic Shores. And Atlantic Shores didn't develop the entirety of Atlantic Shores because there wasn't enough demand for age-restricted housing. Les Watson is here, represents VB Holdings. They were a part of Atlantic Shores. They financed Atlantic Shores. This 93 acres that they've owned for all these years is allocated 64 units of age-restricted housing under their use permit. But Atlantic Shores conveyed this to VB Holding LLC, they're the people who are in the deal and financing the deal with a specific restriction that it cannot be developed as age-restricted housing. So, and the use permit is just a use permit. We're rezoning the whole property with this application, which trumps the use permit to begin with. But we went along with this idea that we need to modify the conditional use permit on an agricultural piece of property. So that's all that number 4 is that the development, which would have had 64 age-restricted housing on about 40 to 50 acres of that property. Now, the units that would have been there's 2 less units than would have been there, will be on 3.5 acres of property, saving that entire 89.5 acres of property as forested area. So number 4 is just simply, it's not going to be age-restricted housing, and it's not going to be what it would have been with Atlantic Shores, where it would have developed most of the developable property. So that's it for number 4. Number 5 is the real application. It's an application of these assembled 2 pieces of property. As I said, they're zoned AG1, AG2, and R10 to conditional A12, subject to proffers. As a whole, we have 97.11 acres of land, and we are developing the 7.5 acres up along Dam Neck Road, and not in both directions, just around the intersection with Bowl Ruler, where Mrs. Huerta owns a little over 4 acres. That's the other piece of this application. The proposal is to develop 92 condominium townhome units on that 7.5 acres. That leaves 89.5 acres, 46 plus of which are developable land that will not be developed and will remain forested. Out of the entire 89.5 acres that will remain forested. So and we have minimized impervious surface, minimized road length, all of those things, and we meet the guidelines. We ran the model, my clients ran the model 8 times, meet the requirements of the model, a model which characterizes all of that 89.5 acres of forested land as impervious surface for quantity purposes, which is just, it's over the top in terms of conservative or whatever, because it totally ignores evapotranspiration and the fact that trees and that whole area is absorbing water. But we're meeting the guidelines without any credit for that whole forested area. 92 units, $450,000, $500,000 units, new stoplight for the 4th leg of that intersection at Dam Neck and Bowl Ruler. Excuse me. The Atlantic Shores community, I've met with them. They have no opposition to this whatsoever. After the Planning Commission, Mr. Large met with the development to the east, which is hundreds and hundreds of feet east of here, went through the whole thing with them because a couple of their people came to the Planning Commission public hearing. They have no objection to this. And from a standpoint of what would have happened if Atlantic Shores had had enough demand for those units when they developed, there would already be 64 units in where all this forested area will always remain. Staff has recommended approval. Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval. We clearly have housing needs in our city, shortage of available homes. And from an environmental standpoint, I don't know how we could conceivably develop this property in a more environmentally sensitive and friendly manner. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Ms. Henley.
Not to answer questions,
Okay.
but just to clarify everything.
Okay.
Because this is one of those things that got out there at the very first when the signs went up and I started getting calls, they're going
Yes,
to be
ma'am.
developing wetlands. And I think you have probably met with the neighbors, but just in case there's anybody still out there. Well, of course, from the standpoint of the property that was Atlantic Shore, did belong to Atlantic Shores, and was supposed to have been developed by Atlantic Shores, but now they're deciding that they don't want to do that. So these are lots that would have been approved for them, and now they're going to be built. However, they're just not going to be age restricted.
That is correct, and there are net 2 less total units than would have been built on the portion of the property that was a part of the original use permit for Atlantic Shores. So those have disappeared forever.
And so then in the other parcel, which is now ag and so forth, you are going, or ag and.
The Atlantic Shores property was almost all ag too, because it was a use permit on ag land for the age restricted.
Right, it was a use permit.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so
Sorry.
then the other parcel is a new parcel that is coming in for development, but it would be at this level, which is just a little over 1 unit per acre, I think.
The total density for the project as a whole, 97 plus acres, 50, make sure I get my numbers right, 53 point some odd acres are developable. It comes out to 1.6 units per developable acre for the entire project.
Right.
Yes, ma'am.
And none of this is in wetlands.
That's correct.
It is currently forested, but this will be how many acres will be a part of the development?
7.5, and you're correct that the vast majority of that is forested, but not all of it. There is an acre and a half or so.
Barely forested.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
But all the rest of it, 89 acres, will remain as it is today.
That is correct. 89.5 acres per the proffers for the zoning remains as it is today, and we're very hopeful that there will be some additional legislation from the state, and that hopefully the city will get on board with allowing these large forested areas to get some credit as a BMP, because they should. And if we are able to do so, it will reduce the footprint of the development, because we will be able to downsize the large BMP, the big pond. I mean, there'll still be a need for it for some quality and quantity storage, but not nearly as much as if there's actually a credit for maintaining all this forested land. And then you'll be a stormwater management agreement over the entire forest as well.
Even with all of that that's being left in its natural state, you still had to meet the new stormwater regulations. Correct. So this is meeting all the new stormwater regulations and so forth.
Yes, ma'am. Without any credit whatsoever for the 89.5 acres of forested land that will remain.
Well, I think it's so important that people know that, we weren't ever saying we're going to totally stop development, but we're going to make development so that we are doing everything we possibly can to make sure it's done environmentally in such a fashion that we're not going to be creating more flooding areas. And so I think this is about as close as you can come to that, and I hope we've satisfied all the folks in the neighborhood who had any questions, but if there's some out there, I'm sure I'll get a call, and I'll be glad to talk.
We've made an extra effort between Planning Commission and City Council to go out to both of the neighborhoods on that side of Dam Neck Road, which we're not in close proximity to, and I'm certain there's no opposition.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Next speaker is Barbara Messner. And then we have one WebEx speaker.
So this is 4 and 5, Ms. Messer.
Pardon?
We're putting 4 and 5 together.
Okay, but it was printed. Since when does the developer change a printed advertised agenda with 2 items? So I assume we have 3 minutes for each item, because that's, okay.
Go ahead.
I mean, the developer comes up here and, Ms. Wilson and Mr. Jones are liaisons for the Economic Development Authority. Okay, I'm opposed. I live in the corridor. I just mentioned there was a horrific accident. That's why I was late. Okay, and, HUD used to be 55 and up. Now it's 62 and up. Dam Neck and Boulder, there's unbelievable reckless driving, speeding. Dam Neck is, Oceana. It's crazy. There's no police out there. They don't stop these people unless there's an accident. And you're not taking care of, our police, fire, and rescue are overworked. The security for your entire complex, that helps the police a little bit, but you're spending a lot of money to protect your complex. And the firemen, the police and rescue, they have to go to all these accidents. There's accidents all the time. You're adding more crime, more traffic, more storm drainage problems every time you build. And you still haven't resolved, the Vanguard Landing issue, $2.9 million taxpayer loan for a project that didn't go through. Like I said, Warren Harris, not enough people are paying attention. Thank you.
Was that for 4 and 5?
Okay.
I'll make sure.
Yeah, conditional AG1, AG2, agricultural and 10 residential, 2 conditional A2 apartment district, developed 92 unit condominium. Like I said, this place is absolutely crazy. The school buses are all over the place. They take up 2 parking spaces. There isn't parking, and traffic getting anywhere is crazy. The May meeting, it should be at the convention center. A lot more people were showing up there. You move back here, despite the OSHA recommendations that the building be completely redone before we use it. Thank you.
The last speaker is WebEx. Ms. Clarkson, if you will pause 2 to 3 seconds before beginning, they are considering items 4 and 5 together. You are unmuted and may begin. Thank you. Comments, well, actually, we cannot hear you in the room. They can hear you on WebEx only. So if you can begin your comments. Okay. I'll let her know. Ms. Clarkson, if you will just bear with us just a minute. We are experiencing a technical issue, and we're working through it now. I'll let you know when to begin.
I thought I heard a dog. I heard it, but I didn't see it.
That dog has a life right there.
I heard it was them. Must be the municipal commission.
Ms. Clarkson, you are unmuted. If you will pause 2 to 3 seconds before beginning. Thank you. got everything back there. We'll try one more time.
Maybe the third
She
time
muted?
would be the charm.
Ms. Clarkson, if you will. TB, if you can unmute me, please. Can you still, no? I'm sorry, there's technical issues, so.
Ms. Clarkson, I'm really sorry.
There's an issue in the engineering room that they're not able to unmute the room for her. Nothing else we can? It's not will carry over? I say it's just a. Tell me how you'd like to proceed, Vice Mayor. I mean, they can't get, the engineers can't get the room
I'm
unmuted.
so sorry, Ms. Clarkson. Anybody else has any other ideas?
If there is I believe Mr. Farley is saying that he may be able to.
He may be able to unmute his laptop, but I'm not sure how well that's going to carry over for you all to hear her. We can give it a try.
Give it a try.
Ms. Clarkson, we are going to unmute you, and if you will begin again momentarily. Give me just a second until we finish. Kevin, you can't move your laptop over.
All right, so Ms. Clarkson.
Ms. Clarkson, if you will begin speaking, we are going to we're going to unmute our laptop and attempt to hear your comments.
And let her know, please, that we have not heard any of her comments. She'll need to start from scratch.
We need you to start from scratch, please. Thank you.
Yeah, is it coming through? I've heard the feedback there. Okay, well, that was issued in 2001. It was subdivided after that cup was issued and then reconveyed. And that's how they obtained the property. So regardless, the cup expired with non-use, but I want to know, are they going to do the same thing again? To subdivide the remaining acres off of where they're going to build, say there was a cup to build all these other properties, and then build them in 2031. There are reasons non-use invalidates all of these permits. The conditions here change. The conditions in Virginia Beach have changed. You are allowing proposals based on outdated assumptions. There are 3 documented bald eagles' nests in the vicinity, and neither I nor Councilmember Rouse or any other citizen should have to tell you this. Your planning department should have already required such a wildlife survey be included when an application is submitted. Now, I don't know how many people frequent that intersection. There have been 14 accidents, but that's not the major problem. It's under sea level already. So this expansion here is an extension of that lake. These plans are built in the stormwater drain, which appears on the DEQ's mapping, but not the city's. And this is being done quite often and causes a majority of your stormwater issues. You cannot recreate a drain without causing major problems. Now, this intersection, once it is flooded, which will occur when it's altered because it already flows into the road without even a storm, the only way into Sandbridge, when Sandbridge Road is flooded, will now be closed. Now, where the old cockfighting operation took place, I can't really argue with that. You are, in fact, improving that property and building on more stabilized soils. It's the other portion, in clearing, and Mr. Borden's overall sentiment that his client should get a Medal of Honor for saving a tree. This plan is everything you were warned against, allowing under the existing laws in the Dewberry studies. You were instructed to extend the flood zones for the Seven Rivers watershed since the 2015 FEMA fails to account for the fact that waters are always present. This proposal portions into the current flood zone and impedes what little drainage there is. You cannot look at these decisions as environmental tree-hugging medals received. The only stormwater concept plan, engineering, or anything that is effective in the Southern Rivers watershed are these wetlands. You're not altering acres of trees, you're removing the equivalent of miles upon miles of pipes per acre and adding hundreds of thousands of gallons to the already overloaded lands without even a storm event. Once it is gone, it cannot be replaced, and you cannot human engineer the equivalent ever, no matter how much money you have or how hard you try. Now, I don't believe that Mr. Borden has all of the proper approvals, but if he does, I just have one last question for him. At the back left, the water leaves the site. Where does it go? Is there a pump? Does it go into the lake, which then flows onto Dam Neck Road? Where does it go?
Is she finished?
Yes, I'm finished.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm so glad that worked out, that we got to hear from Ms. Clarkson. Kevin, thank you for doing
Mr.
magic
Burdon?
with your laptop.
Thanks, Kevin. Mr. Burdon, would you like for rebuttal?
The property that we're developing is not in a floodplain. All the areas of the property that are in a floodplain are being preserved. Not in wetlands. There's no, no wetlands that are being filled with the application. The stormwater must be held on site so that it doesn't leave the site at any greater rate than exists today in undeveloped state. The water will eventually go into Red Wing Lake and circles around, comes back across or underneath Dam Neck Road, eventually goes way down the road into Back Bay. But we're not, it's going to be just like it is today with nothing on it in terms of the amount of water leaving the site during a storm event and for hours after the storm event, and all the water quality requirements are being met. I wish you all a happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and appreciate all the hard work that you all put in every week, all year long, and we're lucky as citizens of this city to have such dedicated public servants. Thank you.
Thank you, Eddie. And wish you a happy holiday as well. Ms. Henley?
Well, I really appreciate the comments from Ms. Clarkson and all of the concern, and the concern of the other people in the neighborhood as they have commented throughout this process. But I think it's very significant that we have such stringent requirements now, and that this development is having to meet all of the new stormwater requirements. Had it developed years ago when the rest of Atlantic Shores developed, then it would have been developed already by the old standards. So I think we're getting the best that we possibly could out of this, and I appreciate all the time that the applicants have spent going through the process. I know it's long and arduous and so forth, but I think we can feel very confident that this property is going to develop in the best fashion that we could. We do still have to provide places for people to live as well. So with all of that, I will move approval for both items 4 and 5.
Second.
Any discussion? Voting board is, yeah, any discussion? Okay, the voting board's open.
By a vote of 9-0, you've approved the applications.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you. And we have the last item, Mutts
Eddie.
with the mission, and if the Mutts are in the house, I'd love to see them.
Couple of them.
Brooke Corson is the first speaker.
May I ask how many,
Yes, Ms.
may I ask how many speakers there are?
I think there's just
4.
There's 4.
Are there any opposed?
There are not.
Just Ms. Mesner.
Just, well, yes. Ms. Corson, are you the applicant?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
I think I saw you last Saturday night.
Yes, ma'am. We were in front of y'all when you were still in the
And you
one
gave
truck.
a little decal.
That was Bev.
Okay.
She gives everybody stickers.
Yes.
Thanks. Good evening, City Council members. Thank you for meeting with us and hearing our application. This has been a learning experience for our organization, and we are grateful for all of the assistance we have received during this process. The staff planners were phenomenal helping us out. We made a few mistakes. They helped us fix them before it went forward to the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission was really wonderful as well, so we really appreciate the group that y'all have to help organizations like ours go through this entire process. Mutts with a Mission was founded in 2008 to address a desperate need for high-quality service dogs for veterans, wounded warriors. And in 2019, we added first responders and law enforcement to our roles of individuals that we would take applications from. These individuals are suffering from either service-connected or line-of-duty connected disabilities, and in sometimes because 28 to 29% of law enforcement officers are either veterans or serving in National Guard or reserve duty. Sometimes they have both. We also place facility dogs with the police departments like we have with Herndon and Norfolk. And these are recognized facility dogs through the state of Virginia because we are one of 78 Assistance Dogs International accredited organizations in the United States. We are one of 3 that has a home base in Virginia. We're excited to call Virginia Beach our home. This is one of the largest military areas on the East Coast. Actually, I think it is the largest military, not only active duty, but retired military areas. And I welcome any questions that y'all may have about the application you have before you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Vice Mayor,
Mr. Holcomb.
I was able to go out and check the property on Saturday, and I actually took my black lab, and what a great piece of work you're doing out there. And I heard somebody earlier in testimony, they said, why don't we rescue humans? Well, when you hear the story that these dogs are doing, they're rescuing humans. They're making a difference in these folks' lives every day. And some of the stories you hear of how they change a service member's life that suffers from PTSD and gives them the comfort they need. And the thing these dogs do was just amazing. And it really touched my heart. Me and my wife enjoyed being out there.
We enjoyed having y'all.
Yes, ma'am.
We enjoyed meeting 3 as well.
Ms. Henley.
I just want to ask some questions. Is it better to do it now or wait for all the speakers? If it's okay, I'll just go ahead and ask your questions.
Yes, ma'am.
I think this is just like the other one was just one that got off on the wrong foot. You said, you learned a lot, and so I think that's the thing. And I think if I can just impress to all applicants and the council, we need to go back to this policy we started to develop to make sure that an applicant goes out in the community when the application is filed and answers the questions then. It can avoid an awful lot of misinformation and misunderstanding, and I think that's what happened in this case. Folks looked at an application for a commercial kennel, because that's what we call it, and I notice you have a sign out saying this is not a commercial kennel, this is so-and-so.
Yes, ma'am.
But that's what people saw as what the application was, is for a commercial kennel. Also, I think it was for 50 dogs. I think you had to put something in. Of course, we know now that that's not the case, but that's what people saw, a commercial kennel for 50 dogs. And then they see this very extensive, expensive fencing going up and got very concerned. And so one thing leads to another. And I think it just goes to show that if the questions can all be answered early on, then people don't get a wrong impression, and I think maybe that's what happened here. And if you had to do it over, you would
If I had to
probably
do it over again, I would speak to each individual in the house, because what had happened is we had spoken with a member in each household, making the now we know incorrect assumption that they would share the information with the other people in the household. And that did not happen, and we were shocked when it didn't. I mean, normally, that's how it works. You speak to someone and they relay that information. So yes, ma'am, definitely. In speaking with the commercial kennel, when we applied, because we're an enigma in this area. There are no other service dog organizations in this area like we are. And we have to, so there's not 50 dogs on the property, but we need to be able to register every dog that Mutts with a Mission owns. Right now, we have 26 dogs in training, not only throughout, and they're not all housed in Virginia Beach, they're housed throughout Hampton Roads. We have a dog up in Williamsburg. We have some even in points north that the puppy raisers drive down to class or go on outings and things like that. So that's where, I think that's what really muddied the waters, was that in order to get that, the ability to be able to register so many dogs under Mutts with a Mission, that we had to apply for the commercial kennel, and plus to be able to use the property as a training facility. That was the only thing it could fall under.
That's our terminology, but.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'm sure folks learned a lot by watching the Planning Commission meeting, and now we'll finish up the education
Absolutely.
tonight
Yes,
and
ma'am.
make sure we've got it straight in everybody's mind.
Absolutely.
Exactly what this is, because it's important that people know that commercial kennel just happens to be what our zoning ordinance allows. But what's approved tonight is a conditional use permit. That means it's a use permit that's approved with these conditions.
Correct, yes, ma'am.
And it's important that people understand that it has to be done the way these conditions have outlined it. And I think the Planning Commission did a very good job of trying to get it defined so everyone would understand. But I'm hoping we've got these numbers right. You're going to have, it says that you can have a maximum of 20 dogs on the property at any over 12 weeks old, and then you'll have 10 dogs under 10 weeks old on the property. But I'm a little bit, I want to make sure we've got that number right, because I'm missing the breeding animals. And you say there's no breeding on the property, but you're going to have 6 litters. So where are the dogs that, where in this count are the dogs that are producing the 6 litters?
So our dogs go, our dogs live with puppy raisers. So all the people that you see in the audience that have dogs for us are puppy raisers. Some of these dogs are part of the breeding co-op through Assistance Dogs International, and when those dogs are deemed healthy, there's an extensive process they have to go through as far as health checks and things like that. And once they're 2, when the breeding co-op deems that, and they come in season, then those dogs are sent away to another program. The co-op makes the decision of who gets bred with whom. They're bred, they come back to our program, they're housed at the house that's on the facility, not at the training center. The training center's for training. The female that is bred comes back to the house and stays in the house until the puppies are whelped. And then once those puppies are 8 weeks old and we have to do temperament testing and things like that, then that's the 10. Those are, they kind of averaged a litter. I mean, you can have 1, you can have none, you can have who knows how many. So they came up with the average of 10 puppies in a litter. Then once those puppies are 8 weeks old, they either go to, depending on, whether it's a co-op dog or it's a Mutts with a Mission dog, regardless, they go to either puppy raisers through Mutts with a Mission, or they are sent to other service dog programs throughout the country and actually now throughout the world. So the 10 puppies is what is the litter. Is what you're talking about.
Well, I'm just wondering if we've really got the numbers right. I want to make
So,
sure.
I mean, could there be 12 puppies in a litter? Could there be 14? Yes, ma'am. But I think what the planning committee was doing was trying to take, an average litter
And those dogs will leave the property and either go to puppy. What if they don't have a temperament to be a good service dog?
So at 8 weeks old,
one in every crowd.
right? Oh, there are. Absolutely. And things develop later on through the breeding co-op, through the assistance dog breeding co-op. All the puppies get sent out, and they all get a chance. And then they get evaluated down the road. So once the puppies, so if we have 10 puppies, say Mutts with a Mission keeps 3, we send them out to our puppy raisers in the community. The other 7 go to specific service dog programs around the country. We're told, okay, this dog's slated for this program, things like that. And then that program evaluates them. So the dogs that Mutts with a Mission may use may be a little different than the dogs that Service Dogs of Virginia uses, just because they do diabetic alert and mobility and things like that. So they may look for a different quality than what we look for. So a dog that maybe we would not have kept for one reason or another, it may be perfect for their program. Like maybe our dog's a little more energetic than what they would like, than that puppy. But if a puppy is 6-7 months old and we decide, okay, we're going to wash this puppy out, we nicely call them career change dogs, and we adopt them out to people on our waiting list.
Okay, well, I was just a little bit confused about all of these dogs, and if we were giving you a number that wasn't going to be that was going to be problematic.
Correct, I understand. So that 20, that should reference dogs in training. And then because what happens is we'll have graduates come back to maybe come visit for the day or come to graduation and things like that. And so our graduate service dogs are not counted in that number because
service dogs.
They're service dogs, correct? Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. But those are for dogs in training. I know that number's supposed to count.
I don't mean to belabor it, but I think it's important that everybody knows exactly what has been resolved so that we don't
I appreciate it. Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
There was one question that Commissioner Don Horsley had asked that I don't think you answered, and I noticed it when I was out there. What is that near the house, the black plastic fence? What is that?
So the neighbors were coming. So I have 2 young children. I have a 10-year-old and a 13-year-old, and we live in the house and we manage the property, and we'll whelp out the puppies and raise them. And so the neighbors were coming by and taking pictures of my children and their personal dogs and our personal dogs out in the yard, and sending them to the city, the planning staff. And it got to be where it was extremely intrusive, and it actually became a safety concern for us as parents and things like that. Of why are you riding by, walking by, riding your bike by, stopping, taking video of my kids out in your yard, out in our yard, with their their dogs and things like that. It just
So anyway, that's going to come down now, I'm assuming.
Eventually, yes, ma'am. Yes, once the neighbors.
Well, I think
Hopefully.
you've got good neighbors. I really do.
I hope so. I hope so.
You might want to make a visit to the church and talk with them at one of their meetings, and I think answer all the questions, and I think everything will be okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Seemed like there was one more thing I had, but I don't see it here. I think we've got it all straight.
We did.
I know.
I'm sorry.
The issue of special events, because I know at first, I know that I think the ordinance allows up to 250 people, and some folks were saying cars, and we're saying you would possibly have up to 4, and that's allowed in the agricultural zoning for agricultural. I mean, it's not just you, it's a horse trade, a horse show or anything else gets 4 special events a year. And so that's not specific to you, that's everybody that's got an operation of some kind is allowed up to 4 special events per year that are regulated by the Special Events Office. And you may have fundraisers or so forth that do have up to 250 people, but I think the important thing, and I would like to make this clear in the condition, and I think somebody maybe called you, that all of the parking for any events need to be on site, because I think it was even suggested in the planning write-up that maybe some people could park in the cul-de-sac, but you've got 3 other neighbors in that cul-de-sac, so we really don't want people parking in the cul-de-sac, but any parking should be on site. So I would like to add this condition: all vehicles associated with a commercial kennel, including special events or other activities, shall be parked on site and shall not be parked within the public right-of-way.
So, yes, ma'am. Marshall did call me about that this morning. So the only thing that, I expressed concerns to her about was, because I think delivery vehicles were also included in.
That's not parking.
Okay, yes, ma'am. So we will have people, I mean, it happened yesterday twice. People will drive down that road.
One of them was probably me.
Oh, was that, okay, yeah, sure, okay.
You are a public road and people are gonna be driving, but you.
Well, yes,
you
but
can't
they'll
have
stop
people
and
parked
park.
there.
Yes, we've had people, you know, just stop and park along the side because, you know, we own such a, well, we're fronted by such a large section of the road that, you know, people, if they're lost or I don't know, maybe they're talking on the phone or texting.
People coming to your events.
Correct.
Will be, I mean, you've got 20 acres.
Right, yes. No, I just wanted to make sure because the way that it was put to me this morning was like, you know, even training or things like that. So we just wanted to make sure, we just want to clarify on our end that sometimes people are parked out on the road that have nothing to do with Months of the Mission.
That
But
would
you're
be fine. But when
specifically
you have-
talking about events.
Everyone who's coming for an activity at your location will be parked on site.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, just so that's cleared up and we'll make that an additional condition. I think there was some concern at first that maybe some of these large events would create parking problems.
Well, so sometimes sometimes it's more advantageous for us to have them off site too. I mean, like we're going to have a graduation on January 22nd of our upcoming class of service dogs, and I think we're going to have it hosted at the Aviation Museum down the road. So it just
Well, you've got a lot of property back there. I mean, we do it all the time. We have a lot of strawberry pickers, and we make sure they're all on our
absolutely
site.
yes, ma'am.
Nobody's
Yeah.
parked on
Yeah.
the road.
Yeah, no, there's
And that's
no
just
there's
what
no reason
everybody
for them to
does.
park. Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
I agree.
just so everybody knows, we're all playing by the same rules. Okay, those were my questions.
Ms. Vice Mayor, real quick, one time, and I know we're in a hurry, but Brooke, if you could introduce old son right there, because it's been laying in the aisle all day. Councilman Rouse almost broke his neck trying to set him every time I told him he's laying out over here.
I can't see
So, you had, yeah.
I want to see the dog.
So this is Riker. He is, they are what, 10 months old? 10 months old.
Well, bring him down so we can.
We actually have three, we have three of the,
He's
with
only
him,
10
his
months
sister,
old?
and two of his sisters in the program.
He's only 10 months old?
Yes, ma'am.
Whoa.
Very well behaved.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Listen, we've had a show over here watching old son lay out there in the aisle asleep the whole time.
I think there's some other dogs too. I think everybody would love to see all.
There are, so we
But don't wake them up if they're good and sleep.
We have 13 dogs in training here. So they can bring them up one by one if you just want to go.
Yeah, just make it like the West
It's
Ministry.
like a
Just
sleep-
walk
Yeah,
around. Walking around the front.
Are we judges?
Yeah.
This is Scarlett. Scarlett's one of our dogs that's getting ready to graduate next month. This is Ash. She actually came to us from a program, Guide Dogs of America. So she came to us from the West Coast, from California.
Just,
Let's
just
have
go
a
ahead, just
boy.
Yeah, you can go around.
Yeah, just-
She is not quite a year. This is Knox. He came to us from a local breeder. Hey, buddy. He is getting ready to graduate.
Yeah.
I have Ike. Ike is he'll graduate hopefully in our August class. He's from a local breeder. And he's actually the ambassador dog for the Norfolk Admirals right now.
Oh.
Is he the one laying over there?
Yes, sir.
That's the one the city attorney got a mugshot of.
Okay, there you go. This is Chili. Chili came to us from Southeastern Guide Dogs down in Florida. We drove down a while and got her. Hello.
And you know, ma'am, we're moving out of this building, so you don't even have to worry about this carpet.
Yeah.
Don't even worry about it.
This is Nova. She just turned a year, believe it or not. So she's another dog from Southeastern Guide Dogs. Because we're part of that the Assistance Dogs International Breeding Co-op service dog programs. We will swap dogs just to depending on where we have her, and then we actually flew down I flew more during COVID to pick up service dog puppies than I have flown normally. We flew down and got her and another dog that was born a day after her that's not here tonight from Southeastern Guide Dogs. They'll graduate potentially next year. This is Atari. This is Riker, the one that was laying in the aisle. This is one of his sisters that we have. Hello, Atari.
This is awesome. These are great dogs.
Oh.
You can go ahead.
Keep coming.
So Karen is one of our repeat puppy raisers. Actually, we have several here. She puppy raised Bragg, who is up with the Herndon Police Department, is one of their facility dogs. We have, you talk about dog show, judging the dog show. This would be your winner right here. This is Briar.
Yeah, okay.
Briar. Well, except for that. You judge on beauty, not on disgustingness. She is 7 months old now? 7 months old. This is Atlas, so we're one of the few programs in the country that's accredited that does what's called owner training. So Brent actually owns Atlas, and they've been training together with us for about a year and a half.
I
He's
need,
getting-
I need to come down and bring my baby.
So, well, he's a service dog, so he's getting ready to graduate as well. Who's next? All right, so this is Rain. Rain came to us from Needs, up at Needs, right?
You see that
Yeah.
mask she has on, right?
Yeah.
Just want you
That's right, go Hokies.
That's right, that's right. Just want y'all to notice.
She's actually the only golden we have right now in the program. So this is Loki. He is the
Here's the
smallest
stud.
dog we have. And so people wonder sometimes, like, what do these little dogs do? So emotional support animals we don't train. He is actually task trained to do things like medication reminders. We have dogs that you can send to go get help. You know, we're part of the initiative. If you see a service dog without a person, follow that dog because they may have been sent to go get help. So even, you know, dogs his size could be trained to do tasks. They can, you know, even small dogs can wake up, you know,
You have a niece? What is Loki?
what's Loki? He's a Shih Tzu Bichon mix.
Got it, thank you.
And actually, he thinks he's as big as all the other dogs.
I'm sure.
Oh, it's Kevlar. This is Kevlar. This is actually, you saw Scarlet that Bev had, the one of the yellow labs. This is her sister. So, and they came from Needs.
So I wish I counted, how many dogs do we have here tonight?
13? 13.
Wow.
Lucky 13.
Yes, ma'am.
We didn't exceed your number, right?
No, ma'am, no. They all go home with them, so
Oh, that's
they're not all at the training center right now. So,
Okay, thank you.
Well,
yes, ma'am.
I kept noticing y'all laughing and
We had a-
smiling
we-
down
Yeah.
there. It's like, wow, y'all are having all the fun. Well, thank you so very much.
Yes, ma'am.
This is wonderful.
Thank y'all very much. And you know, we'd like to invite y'all out to the graduation. It's going to be January 22nd, which is a Saturday at 9:30 at the Aviation Museum. So we'd love to have y'all.
Thank you.
So the next speaker, Alan, I'm gonna mess your name up.
Fabian.
Fabian, is that right?
I think the dogs.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the hard, Alan, you can't follow that out.
No, I can't. But I do want to say that now that we've handled the business of whether it's a kennel and whether it isn't, you know, unfortunately, that's what they had to file as because, you know, that's all the city offered.
Right.
These dogs go home with us. They're not all at that facility at one time. And I'll tell you, in all the years that I've worked with a lot of you guys on a lot of community events and a lot of things that I do with the media, I've never come and spoke before you. And I'm going to tell you that this program is something that not only should be approved tonight, but it should be something that's championed by the city. There's only 3 in the state of Virginia, and there's very few across the world that do what these dogs do. I just had to give up Sage. I'm going to try and not get choked up and cry myself because I just got through training one. Now she's going to go on to the next part of her mission. But these dogs can turn on lights. They'll clear a room when it's dark. They can provide emotional support, and they also obviously do the task of wear a little arm around their collar, and we'll let you know it's time to get the meds. Open the fridge, bring you the bottle of water so you can take your meds. And for those of us who have friends that have been in the military, I've had people that have come back, some special operators, SEAL guys would come and say, hey, can I just get a few minutes with the dog before I go home to my family? Before I go back, I just need to decompress just a little bit. Can I spend some time with Sage? And the impact that the dogs make whenever we take them out into the public, whenever we're able to do what they do with them and impact the lives on a daily basis, it's something that's so unique. And now that it's right here in our own backyard, you know, these Much More Than Missions dogs should be something that we see everywhere and are very proud of as citizens of Virginia Beach and council and every member that ends up, whether that supports this and ends up seeing this program. And again, please come out to the facility. You'll see what it's all about. These dogs all go home. It's not a commercial kennel where there's just puppies lined up behind cages everywhere. These dogs are out here making a major impact on the community. And thank you everybody who took the time to go out there and see it for yourself and help support Smuts with a Mission. And that's all I've got to say. Thank you all.
That's fantastic.
Next
Thank
speaker
you,
is
Alan.
Barbara Messner. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Tower, do you remember the daycare, the doggy daycare? When they spoke, you know, it was all the neighbors and everybody, you know, were in agreement. You were opposed to that, but after I heard everything, I supported it. But I think it's important that these dogs are recruited and, you know, they're brought here. Hope for Life, EquiKids, you know, there are a lot of places like EquiKids that are too expensive for the average person. Gold Keys, Camp Grom, you know, that's, you know, supposed to be for the service members. But because of, you know, the fact that it's, you know, close to a residential neighborhood, I think a kennel of this size, you know, none of the property should be adjacent to neighborhoods because there's a lot of kennels, actual kennels in neighborhoods, and I don't think in neighborhoods is the right area. And I'm not sure if y'all remember, but there was a gentleman that helped with the guide dogs, an elderly gentleman. He was had his puppy at the oceanfront, 32nd and Pacific. It was a hit and run that y'all never solved. So it is really important that this, you know, not be, you know, close to traffic and not close to, you know, neighborhoods. So, you know, like I said, SPCA and, you know, there's just too many dogs needing homes. So, you know, dogs were recruited from Korea. You know, flights were taken to bring the dogs here. So, you know, I just think it's a great program, but I oppose them in residential neighborhoods. That's the only thing. Thank you.
Adam Walburn. That's the last speaker. Look at this little pup. Thank you.
Honored council members, there have been many people speaking about what's with the mission and putting forth the reasons why this permit should not be granted with reason of what what's with the mission might do, what might happen, or what could be done in the future. I can't comment on this, but I can let you know what Mutts with a Mission is doing for me, has done for me, and what I hope with your vote of yes will continue to do for me and other veterans. My name is Adam. I'm proud to say that I've served as an Army combat engineer in the first Gulf War and later in Mogadishu, Somalia. Today I'm a disabled veteran. I cannot count the number of times that I've left my VA doctor's appointments with the feeling of, I don't matter, who really cares? However, one day, one of my doctors recommended that a service dog would help me to cope with my recurrent issues. I found Mutts with a Mission, which is a nonprofit organization providing service dogs to qualified veterans, wounded warriors, law enforcement officers, federal workers, first responders. From day one, Brooke really cared about me, and I recognized I found a place where I do matter. Mutts is providing invaluable service to me, as well as to so many women and men who have served their country. Mutts with a Mission has helped many veterans with service dogs for movement, stability, or simply a calm, reassuring presence that is constantly by our side. Brooke, Becca, and others provide endless hours for training, guidance, and help us cope with the issues we veterans face. What Mutts with a Mission will continue to do by you voting yes is contribute their time, energy, and resources towards helping veterans and others in our community who have at times been forgotten about, pushed to the side, or ignored. Mutts with a Mission is needed. It is a place where we find understanding and help. Their service animals help us cope, and Mutts with a Mission is actually walking the talk, not just talking the walk. Thank you for your time and allowing me to speak.
Thank you, and thank you for your service.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I think we have found out that we have got a very wonderful group of people serving in Virginia Beach. This is just one of many organizations that do so much, and we're very glad to have you here. And it's just unfortunate that the whole story wasn't out from the first. I must say that you folks write very good letters, and I've learned a lot by reading all of these letters and emails, and I'm going to be passing them around because I think it's important that people in the neighborhood know exactly who you are, and I'm sure that you're going to be a good neighbor, and they'll be good neighbors as well. And it's just unfortunate that the information didn't go out when the first sign went up, or before the first sign went up. We're just going to correct that going forward. So, given the information we've learned tonight, I'm moved that we approve this conditional use permit with the 12 conditions as in our transmittal letter, plus the condition that I added about parking all being on site.
Second.
Any discussion? Voting board's open.
By a vote of 9-0, you've approved the application as amended.
Well, that is our last item on our agenda, and,
Thank you.
pardon me?
I'm sorry.
We don't have open mic night tonight.
Darn.
So, I tell you, Mr. Jones and I have been here since 10 o'clock this morning, so we've had a very, we've definitely put in a lot of hours today. But we really wish everyone a happy, wonderful holiday.
We have appointments.
Oh, appointments.
I
was all ready to check out.
What's the one?
Sorry.
I wouldn't have let you have.
I know.
No,
You make us go back there.
that work
You'll
is
be
not-
good. Mr. Jones, can we do the appointment?
Are we, I'm sorry, Madam, do we have unfinished business as well? I have a couple comments at the end of appointments. if
Okay,
so.
we'll handle that.
Thank you.
I was just so excited, I've been there since 10 o'clock.
You ready to do appointment?
Go ahead.
Madam Vice Mayor, I nominate to the 531 Memorial Committee Sharon Felton, Lawrence Kluwer, Jason Nixon, Tara Reel, George Alcaraz, Cassette Livas, William Allman, Curtis Hooks, Shelby Slutzker, Brian Ricardo, Charlotte Zito, Sylvia Strickland. To the Bikeways and Trails Advisory Committee, Andrew Lewis. To the Clean Community Commission, 2 high school students, Sierra Reed, who is a senior, and Caden Braswell, who is a junior, both attend Virginia Beach City Public School. To the Community Organization Grant Review and Allocation Committee, Dr. Caitlin Padati. To the Green Ribbon Committee, David Weiner. To the Health Services Advisory Board, Dr. Caitlin Padati. To the Historic Preservation Commission, Glenn Carwell and Derek Dubay. To the Planning Commission for 1 year, D. Oliver. To the Resort Advisory Commission, Tyler Brown, Mike Eason, William Gambrell, Michael Levinson, and Robert Taylor. And to the Southeastern Public Service Authority, Mr. Thomas Leahy.
Thank you. I think the voting board is open.
By a vote of 9-0, you have appointed those as read by Councilmember Jones.
Unfinished business?
Yes, thank you. I just want to, this is our last meeting of 2021. We're going into a new year. And I don't want to, dampen everybody's spirits because I'm pretty jolted as well, seeing our four-legged friends here. Just some housekeeping things about quorum and respect. I'm a big respect guy. And earlier during consent agenda, Mr. Branch was opposing and wanted to pull in your item with discussion. Through process, I know we don't have discussion during consent agenda, and so I attempted to get a point of order in which Vice Mayor Wilson, you immediately shut it down and say he's speaking. I understand that when a person has the floor, that's how that's supposed to be done. But I would like the same respect afforded to me when I had the floor and I'm speaking and there's a sidebar going on. I don't appreciate that because I have just as much as important things to say as Mr. Branch would or any other council member. So in 2022, I hope that we can afford and give each other the same respect when someone has the floor and is speaking. Thank you, and happy holidays and season greetings.
Yes.
Thank you.
I think being kind to one another is always a good thing.
Indeed it is.
Absolutely. And I think that's a great way to send our message out for the holiday season, is for all of us to remember to be kind to one another. Thank you for bringing it up. Is there anything else? All right, thank you. Have a wonderful time. We will see you in 2022. Who knew?